There was once an old grandmother living with her 2 grandchildren near a steep mountain. They were quite alone, for their closest neighbors lived miles away. But they were happy together and loved their home, so they stayed in the shadow of the mountain, far away from the rest of the world. The children were allowed to play in the valley near the home, but the old grandmother would never let them climb up the mountain. "An evil spirit dwells there," she told them, "and it is looking for a body to inhabit so it can come back to the land of the living." The children were frightened by her words and promised to avoid the mountain slopes and stay near the house. To protect them further, the old grandmother taught her grandchildren a spell that would let them transform themselves into everyday objects. If the evil spirit ever came to their home while she was away, the children could hide from it and be safe. When the grandmother returned, she would drive away the evil spirit and use a counterspell to transform the children back to their human shapes. One day, the little brother became ill with a terrible fever. His sister and grandmother did everything they could to make him well, but his fever would not break. Finally, the old grandmother told the children that she had to climb the mountain to gather some rare herbs that would make the little brother well. The sister was frightened. "What about the evil spirit, grandmother?" she cried. "It will kill you and take over your body." "I am very strong," said the old grandmother, "and I know many spells. The spirit will not catch me." The sister begged her not to make such a dangerous climb, but the grandmother refused to listen. She set out early the next morning, chanting a protection spell as she walked and used her cane to help her over the rough spots. She climbed up and up the steep mountain, over sharp rocks and debris, determined to locate the herbs that would make her grandson well. It was late in the afternoon when the grandmother reached a sunny ledge just below the summit of the mountain. Her body ached, and she had many scrapes on her hands and feet from the sharp rocks. But the grandmother hardly noticed these pains, for she could see one of the rare herbs she sought growing just in front of her. She bent over, grabbed the top of the plant, and gave a tug. The plant came out of the ground so fast that she fell off the ledge and started rolling down the mountain with the herb clutched in her hand. The spirit had been waiting for just such a moment. It shook the whole top of the mountain in its glee, causing dirt and stones to cascade down the mountain, burying the old grandmother. By the time the rock slide reached the bottom of the mountain, she was dead. The evil spirit swooped down upon the debris and took over the old grandmother's body. It cackled delightedly to itself, pleased with its new home. It stood up, shook the dirt and stones off its body, and started walking toward the old grandmother's house. It was determined to feast on the children before dark. It carried the rare herbs in its hand and sang a cheerful song as it walked, hoping to fool the children long enough to get within striking range. Back at the house, the sister was waiting anxiously for the grandmother to return. Around midday, the little brother's fever had broken, and there was no need for the healing herbs that had sent the old grandmother on such a dangerous journey. As the little brother lay fast asleep in his bed, the sister paced up and down the small house, listening for her grandmother's footsteps. It was almost dark when the sister heard the sound of singing and recognized the grandmother's voice. But the voice sounded strange and hollow, like something dead. The girl knew then that her grandmother had perished on the mountain, and the evil spirit was coming to kill them. Frightened, she locked the door and took her brother into the back room. When the spirit arrived, it was confused by the locked door and ran around and around the outside of the house, looking for a way in. The children were terrified. The sister knew they would have to transform themselves in order to escape from the evil spirit. But there was no grandmother to remove the spell, and the nearest neighbors were many miles away. "We must use grandmother's spell, little brother," said the sister, "and pray that someone will find us and return us to our bodies after the evil spirit is gone." The sister chanted the spell and transformed herself into a small stone, while her brother hid beneath the bed. Then the little brother sat down beside the fireplace and transformed himself into a log. When the evil spirit broke into the house and came looking for the children, they were nowhere to be seen. It called and called to them, using their grandmother's voice, but there was no answer. After searching for many hours, the evil spirit left the house, never to return. For many long years, the evil spirit haunted the slopes of the mountain, luring the unwary into its clutches, while the house at the foot of the mountain slowly crumbled away. Inside the house, a small stone and a log waited patiently for someone to come and transform them back to their bodies. But no one ever came.